Are you an arrow or a circle? Does the arrow care about what it leaves behind in its motion or not? Does the circle care about what it leaves behind in its motion or not? Hold it there. Think about it as we go through the video, because we will come back to it at the end. There is a movement in our society away from the linear towards the circular model. We do that with resources, hence the concept of circular economy. We do that culturally and with lifestyle, whether it's big companies and governments, net zero target, renewable energy, electrical vehicles, Paris Agreement, or consumers, normal people. Plant-based diet, grow your own food, recycled fashion, composting, riding bicycles, etc., etc., etc. But there is one area that is never discussed, and that is linear versus circular time. The linear time, the one we have invented, the one-way street, the timeline time, it doesn't exist in nature and in traditional societies. Because there everything repeats itself all over again. All seasons, all over again, repetition forever. But we have created this one-way timeline, and my question to you is this. Can we have a successful transition away from linear towards the circular, like we already do with resources and with lifestyle? But can we do it without addressing time? Can we operate on a linear timeline and have sustainable continuation of life for all species, right? And future generations? Well, that's what we're gonna discuss in this video. I am Jan from sustainablebutterflies.com.au. There are 5 pillars of sustainability, but frankly, today's video doesn't really fit any of these pillars. But that's fine, right? Anyway, if you like the video content, please like it or subscribe, because that will make the video more available and suggested to more viewers. Thank you very much. Before we go to linear circular time, let's just briefly review resources and culture, otherwise it won't make sense. So, linear resource use, right? Take, make, waste. If I have a wooden table, right, like this, and I buy it and then it gets scratched or the leg comes loose, I don't like the color of it anymore, after 3 months I'll chuck it in a skip, in a bin. It goes to landfill with all these timber, right? Which means that, and then I buy a new table, which means that new trees have to be cut, that is less habitat for koalas and birds and lizards and bees and insects and mushrooms and microorganisms. There's also fewer leaves in the atmosphere capturing carbon dioxide, right? And tackling climate change, right? So that's bad, right? Obviously, that's the linear approach. But if I have the same table for 3 years or 5 years, or if I don't like it, I make a shelf or a garden bed or rehome it or donate it, then no new trees have to be cut. That means koalas have home, and lizards and bandicoots and birds and microorganisms, and there are more leaves out there capturing these greenhouse gases, these planet warming gases, right? So that's that. And the concept of circular economy is nothing else than our attempt to have on industrial scale in the modern times have that circulation, because to mimic nature, model nature, because in nature there is no such thing as waste. An old log is not waste, it's a resource for life. It's a source of life. It's a shelter for bandicoots and wombats and mushrooms and fungi and microorganisms, etc., right? Now, linear, circular, culture or lifestyle, and that's related to resources. So linear one is my one, the modern one, right? It's about giving me anything I want, anytime I want, in the greatest quality and quantity I want, and also greatest variety and diversity of choices. Whether it's types of tomatoes, yogurts, cereal, table types, or phones, cars, clothes, anything. It's less seasonal, it's less immediately impacted by the environment because it's more urban. So unless I go to the coral reef or some former forest, I don't see coral bleaching or deforestation. It values convenience. So I have aircon right now here, right? I can call Uber Eats. I can get any food I want delivered within 20 minutes, right? Etc. Now, circular lifestyle and culture is more traditional societies and indigenous. It's more connected to nature, less urban. For Aboriginals, their land is like their second skin. For me, it's an asset to be owned or traded. It's a property, right? Also, they are more seasonal. They eat what's in a season at that moment. They look at the satisfaction of the community rather than their own individual needs. They don't value speed as much and convenience as much. They don't have the sense of entitlement, expectation, and also the attitude of give me right now. Now, moving on to time, we'll start with the circular. In nature, do you see trees dropping their leaves in March and then in June and then next year in September and then they skip 2 years and then drop it in October and then go back to normal? No, right? Trees drop their leaves exactly the same time and put them on exactly at the same time in springtime, right? Turtles. Do you see turtles migrating to a beach of Indonesia, lay their eggs, and the next year they go to Fiji, and the next year they go to New Zealand, and then they skip 2 years and go somewhere else completely for a change? No, they go to the same beach all over again. Now, traditional societies, for example, Aboriginal, but not only Aboriginal, don't have that timeline, one-way street, the one we have invented, right? What they have instead is they have their myths or exemplary models, and then they have rituals, rites and gestures and acts where they repeat the same thing, and it's their way of pay respect to the divine spirits and divinity and sacred animals, and also it's their way of connecting through repetition of these rituals and rites and acts to connect with the original source, that creation in their mythology, right? So to us, modern people, we might have looked at them and go, well, they're primitive because they're stuck in time just repeating the same thing. They're not very innovative, they're not creative. But they don't see it that way. They see it as a way of connecting through the ritual to that thing that matters. And that's that source, that original divine model, exemplary model. To them, the only thing that has any meaning is that which corresponds with that original exemplary model, which they act out through the ritual. And they do it all over again. They repeat things all over again, all over again, all over again. For them, the individual act, innovation and creativity, that event, concrete event, has no value, no meaning at all. And by the way, this is not my opinion. I'm drawing on Eliade's book, The Myth of the Eternal Return. Highly recommend it. It's linked in the video description. Now, the linear time, which is our modern time on a timeline, the one-way street, the arrow, right? Well, the key feature of this is that individual events themselves have their meaning, these concrete events. Before COVID, after COVID. Before GFC 2008, after the GFC. Before 9/11, after 9/11. Before the Sydney Olympic Games, after the Sydney Olympic Games. Before James Cook arriving in Australia, after James Cook arriving in Australia. Centuries. What was one of the major events in more ancient history? The crucifixion of Jesus Christ, right? It was a concrete event that happened to a concrete person at a concrete place in concrete location. We decided it's a big event and we said, well, we will have BC, before Christ, AD, after that, 2022 years ago, and since then we started marking our calendar. But that raises a question, right? Where did this come from? This idea that the events themselves are valuable. of the linear timeline. It didn't come from nature, because nature repeats cycles all over again, new buds on the trees each spring and then all over again, as we explained. It doesn't come from traditional societies, because they repeat the same circles all over again. Now, this idea that the events themselves are important, that one-way street timeline, originated before, long time before Jesus, actually. Again, drawing on Eliade's book. The old Hebrew prophets came up with the idea that the calamities, catastrophes, invasions are the punishments of a wrathful God who is punishing Israelites for their blasphemy and their misbehavior. But this personalized God, it wasn't just this abstract divinity, unlike the traditional societies. This personal God was punishing a concrete behavior, and he was punishing concrete people, this tribe of Israelites. So next time there was another calamity or a drought or invasion or some suffering, that was another different event, different wrathful punishment by this God inflicting upon these misbehaving people. And again was another different concrete wrath punishing a different misbehavior. And that's where this idea originated, right? That one-way, linear, and then obviously that big event was the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, which was just another in a series of big events. Now here is the point. Clearly in our society we have a movement away from the linear model towards the circle model, with resources, circular economy, culturally and with lifestyle, net zero targets, Paris Agreement, electrical vehicles, composting, worm farming, recycled fashion, plant-based diet, riding bicycles. So we do that, but what about time? And my question is, can we have a successful transition towards sustainable society, fully sustainable, which is circular as nature is circular, traditional societies? Can we have that without addressing time? Can we have that without addressing this issue? Because that's not addressed at all. Well, coming back to the original question I asked you at the beginning. Are you the circle or the arrow? Does the arrow care what it leaves behind or not? Does the circle care about what it leaves behind or not? Well, my theory is that the arrow doesn't care, right? Because it's behind. An arrow moves like this, and if it leaves something, it's there, it just keeps going. Whereas the circle, if it leaves mass, it will meet it again next time it's on the same spot. Not just with resources, not just with culture and lifestyle, but time-wise as well. It's a mindset, it's sort of modus operandi, that kind of thing, right? So I believe that this issue of linear circular time should be on the table the same way we have resources and our circular economy and lifestyle and culture as well. Now, do I have 5 steps to a circular time? No, of course not, right? We're not setting up a new email provider, we're not putting together a kitchen cabinet, right? Well, this stuff, this circular linear time, it's not even addressed anywhere. So we need to put it on the table and talk about it in the same way, the way we talk about recycling, circular economy, renewable energy and all that stuff. We can't have one without the other. We're operating on a linear timeline. So what results do we expect to get if we don't address it, right? So that's it I've got for you today. Hope you enjoyed the video and you have a great day. Bye.